Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the challenges of being interrupted. So let's jump back into the questions, T.
Perfect. Thanks, Amy. So if we allow ourselves to get interrupted, how can one make sure we stay on topic and don't get carried away with side conversations or side battles?
This can absolutely happen. And so let's assume that you're staying on your side of the street. You're staying focused on topic X, for example.
Yeah.
And you're not the one who's bringing in the side conversations, though the other person is. And that can just lead to all sorts of extra stress and mess.
Right.
So, and I also have a theory about this. Starting side conversations is an approach sometimes people use to distract us.
Right.
Yeah.
Sneaky.
Yeah. Now, sometimes they're doing it consciously, sometimes it's unconscious. And when it's not innocent, I call it doing smoke and mirrors. You know, the kind of the magician's way of tricking you.
Yeah, for sure.
So to successfully handle this, you've got to have like a split brain focus here. Half your brain is focusing on what the intended topic is. And the other half of your brain is focusing on what the other person is saying. So you got to be tracking both things. It's a little bit tiring.
Yeah.
And then in the back of your mind, you want to have the point that you want to make, so you can keep coming back to it.
Perfect.
I mean,
don't let it go.
You don't want to let it go. At the same time, you want to be as present as possible to stay focused on what they're saying.
And that's going to be tough, right? Because you don't want to feel like you're ignoring what they're saying. And you maybe even make them get even more angry and irate if you don't listen to what they're saying.
Yeah. And for me, it's important to resist the temptation to not get caught in these side conversations because it might be their intention to pull you off topic.
Right. Okay.
Though here's my approach to exactly that. So to keep both of you on track is you can say, using something called the broken record approach and calmly repeat yourself. So it would sound like this. T, right now, I'd like to stay focused on topic X. I'm willing to discuss topic Z with you another time.
Great.
So I'm acknowledging that you've got this other thing that you want to talk about. And I'm also being, setting boundaries and saying, this is what I want to talk about today.
I love that.
Yeah.
So simple and polite and neutral. It feels very neutral.
If you can package it, because I could say, T, I don't want to.
That's not so neutral.
No, exactly. It's all in the packaging, people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I'm going to try that. Okay, so let's get on to the theme of content. We had some questions around preparation for potentially conflictual conversations. So you know it's coming up. How do I prepare best the content? Can it be a personal opinion combined with facts?
Of course, it's safer to stay with facts. At the same time, when you want to share your feelings or your personal opinion, what you can do is you let the other person know that's what it is. You name it.
Okay.
And there's this great phrase that I've been using for years, and there's a book recommendation I want to make to listeners that I think will serve people even more than the title. The title is The New Rules of Marriage by Terry, I can't remember Terry's last name. New Rules of Marriage. And as I've been listening to the book, I can see there's all sorts of benefits in there of things that you can use in, what do you call the relationships that are not intimate, platonic relationships and business relationships. So I can highly recommend that book to listeners.
Okay.
And Terry uses this one phrase as well that I think he got from another coach. And the phrase is the story I'm making up in my head.
Okay, yes.
Or just simply the story I'm making up. And this way, it's what you're doing is you're giving yourself permission to share your opinion.
Right.
And because you're saying it's a story I'm making up, it might reduce a defensive reaction in the other person and even help give that person insight as to why you're so upset or angry or confused or fearful,
Very
whatever.
clever. It's very clever because we have this tendency to say, I think, I feel, I'm feeling, or whatever, you know. And so by saying the story I'm making up in my head, you take ownership of what you're about to say. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. You're calling it out saying, hey, I don't know if this is true or not. It's just what I believe right now.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. And the name of the book again, Amy, was?
The New Rules of Marriage.
Okay.
And it's, what was the thing I wanted to say about that? Oh, can't remember. It's gone. If it comes back, I'll mention it later.
So if for example, I say to you, this is what I'm thinking. No, the story I'm telling myself is this. Does that kind of diffuse the tension? Is that the idea?
Yes.
Right.
And I thought of the thing. Thank you. So, and it also gives the other person permission to say, well, the story I made up was that you blah, blah, blah.
Yes. Okay.
Right. So it's a tool that both people can use.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna write that one down.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Lots of good tips today. Okay. So what about phrasing things? So we may have a tendency to go in guns blazing, I guess, if we've got something on our mind or something is bothering us. How does the way we phrase things, how can that change the outcome, Amy?
Wow. For me, it can make all the difference in the world.
Right.
So one of the things I work on with clients is I suggest learning about something called NVC, which stands for nonviolent communication.
No,
you can check out, cnvc.org or nvctraining.org for more information. It'll help you to state requests versus demands, which increase the likelihood of getting the outcome you want. So if I say to you, T, you need to pick me up at 3:00, that's a demand.
Right.
Whereas a request is T, I don't have a car today and I need to be at the meeting by 4:00. Would you be willing to pick me up at 3:00?
Changes everything.
It does, right? You hear it is much more, it gives you the power to choose. And that's why it's scary for people. That's why I want to make a demand, because I want to control the outcome of the situation. Ironically, by me making a demand, I'm going to push you further away, less likely will you be willing to give me what I want. So I, as the requester, have to be willing to give up control. That's part of the benefit. In fact, I will be having a guest on my show in the next couple of weeks, Dr. Yvette Erasmus, who's a doctor of clinical psychology. And we're going to get into NVC and the other juicy topics in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Good
stuff. And this story and the whole NVC reminds me of a situation recently that I had when I was moving house. And I think I mentioned it to you because I really did have to keep my partner hat on. Big time.
Oh, yes. What is this?
All the story about the internet connection. So I moved house, trying to get the internet connection, changing companies, very complicated. Once again, I live in France. So I've got this being on the telephone in a different language. The way you phrase things is important. And you have to think about that when it's not your own culture and your own language. So this really did come into play. I think I'd called the company. In fact, I know because I wrote them down 17 times.
Oh, my
already
gosh.
By the third conversation, I was finding it hard to keep cool because everybody needs the internet today. I could not believe that in 2020, it was taking not 4 weeks, not 8 weeks. This was into month number 3 with no internet connection, having to use what we call the hotspot from our phone. And it was driving me crazy.
Right. So, and listeners should know that you work from home, that you've got a daughter who needs to use the internet.
Who's at college. Yeah. So it was getting very desperate, we can say.
And, college she's actually only 12. So she's smart. She's not that smart because college in the US is like 18 and over. So she's still in high school for American listeners.
Right. She didn't skip 6 years of education. Prodigy. No. So we were super frustrated because, of course, everybody needs internet for everything, whether it was just going to be watching a film at the weekends or, you know, everyday work. So as I say, I had to put all of the stuff that I've been learning with you, all the techniques, the partner techniques, really into play. So the story goes, one day at the end of the afternoon, towards the end of the 3 months, the second technician turned up at the door, and he was having a bad day. I could just tell he was disheveled. He called me, couldn't find the address, said he probably was not going to stick around. And I'm getting desperate, thinking, you know, this is the second time a technician has been to the house. I've got to get him into this house.
Yeah, you can't let him leave.
He's not slipping through the net. You know, I'm going to do everything. And I'm thinking, like, stay calm, stay partner.
Okay, so hold on. So you were conscious. Oh my gosh, I got this guy who sounds like he's probably in predator mode.
Oh, he was. Yeah.
You were already assessing him, and then you were coaching yourself consciously.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Really being careful of how I phrased everything, how I said, because after 17 phone calls and only 2 visits, this is the second visit. I mean, I was ready to explode. I was ready to say, where the hell have you guys been? Why cannot, you know, this can't be fixed. So
hold on.
Control.
So you knew you were intuitively really wanting to be predator. You knew that wasn't going to get you what you needed. Right.
And from the initial contact with him on the telephone, he was predator. So I was already feeling like, don't go pray. Don't be apologizing, you know, and stay very assertive, which is a word you used earlier. Be assertive, keep the smile on the face. You know, I just said, you're really not too far. I'll walk up the road. I'll come and meet you, and I'll show you everything I could to get him in. So he eventually did. He got into the house, and he was going crazy about the company he worked for. So it put me in a difficult position. He was telling me, change companies. This is all they ever do. We just have problem after problem, blah, 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 blah. And it sounded like he needed to sound off.
Vent.
Yeah. So I put in what we say, the giraffe ears, right? In NBC.
Yeah, exactly.
The big giraffe ears. And I thought, I'm going to pull out my big empathy card and listen to him and use my active listening. Oh, wow. So again, repeating back, if I understand, yeah, this has happened a lot. And slowly, after nearly an hour, the situation was diffused. He relaxed. I could see that I gained his trust.
Wow. And you're doing this all in French.
All in French as well. Yeah. Oui, bien sûr, en français. So that wasn't the challenge. The challenge was really to say little and the right thing, and to let him know that I was kind of on his side, and just stay partner throughout the whole thing.
Was there any point that because if I put myself in your shoes, I don't know if I think I would have lost it at a certain point, like, hey, buddy, I'm the customer here. I shouldn't have to be your therapist.
There was that. Before that, Amy, there was also, he was rude. He was being rude to me at the beginning for about 20 minutes.
Wow.
He was peed off with the company, with the job, why he'd been sent here. It was Friday afternoon. He had 10 minutes. That was it. And we'd already gotten to minute 20, and he was being rude. So instinctively, I wanted to tell him to, you know, go shove it.
Yeah, I bet.
And at the same hand, I was never going to let that happen, because I was so desperately waiting for my internet connection right now. So it was kind of a crisis situation for me, going back to the crisis stuff. And I had to keep control and master my emotions, because I wanted to say, hey, buddy, do you know how long I've been waiting? I should be the one going off at you.
Right.
So there was so much in that experience. And I remember calling you after saying, Amy, oh my gosh, it was insane how it worked. And he went above and beyond. He spent an hour with me. He went over to the box in the street. He realized that some kind of connection with a wire had gone wrong. It wasn't his job. He knew how to do it. And then he even called the people for me to check and make them test the line. Okay, rather than the other technician that had been just left. So I invited him for a drink and said, would you like to, you know, spend 5 minutes having a drink? I want to say thank you. He did. It was left calm, happy weekend. And I got my internet connection on.
Wow.
And it was, you know, it was a tricky one. It was a tricky one.
I think that's a story that a lot of listeners could probably relate to.
Maybe. And the other thing that I remember I used a lot was tell me more. Those three little words, tell me more. Okay, I'm listening.
Dis-moi plus. How do you say that in French?
Je vous écoute.
Je
In
vous
fact,
écoute.
we say I'm listening. Je vous
listening.
écoute. And then you invite the person to tell you more, you know. Dis-moi, okay, je vous écoute. So it was it stays in my memory. It really does stick out in my memory.
Wow, that's a great story.
My successful partner story.
Yeah.
Partner prevailed again.
And there are so many things in that story that you are able to repeat in the future, and that you created muscle memory that it'll be interesting in the next time if something challenging happens to you to notice how, that wasn't so hard.
It's not.
Maybe it's not so hard because of all the hard work you put in already.
Because of nearly 3 years of training and practicing maybe one of the skills, like the tell me more with my boyfriend. If we get into a fight or, you know, somebody else or whoever it may be, tell me more. And that's not, I guess I could call myself a predator more than prey, recovering predator.
Yes.
So the tell me more thing, when you said that, when you explained that, I was and there's a video also in the snippets.
There is, yes.
That people can check out on your video page on the website, carrollcoaching.com. Tell me more. What are these 3 words? Tell me more. It works. It really, really does work. Because as you said, the person opposite wants to, which would usually be me, wants to say everything that they have to say. And and that's how the tension arises. 2 people getting feistier and feistier and trying to speak over each other. And when somebody drops back and reacts differently, so if you take that on as the partner, it really, for me, has been eye-opening and life-changing.
You know, I would upgrade the tell me more now that I've interviewed George Colreiser. I interviewed him back in I think January, maybe. And his point was that sometimes people react to being told things. And that if you just do a little tweak and turn it into an even more obvious question, they may respond even more positively, which would be, would you tell me more?
Wow. Okay.
So that's, I think, for particularly dicey situations, or if you find someone's not reacting well to tell me more, say, would you tell me more? And then what that does is it then puts even more control on the other side. What I was saying earlier about demand versus request.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I've got some more work to do.
I think that's a bonus that can be used, you know.
Would you tell me more? Yeah, it's interesting. So you're, again, it's almost like handing over the racing baton, isn't it? Over to you and giving them the space to explain. Yeah. Fabulous. Exactly. Okay. So Amy, I have another question from the participants. Okay. What if people, have we got time? How are we doing?
Yeah, we do. We have plenty of time.
Okay, great. So what if people don't seem to take you seriously in a work situation or maybe at home?
Well, for me, 2 possibilities come to mind. Either they're doing it purposely to be cruel. I don't know if it's the word is purposely or purposefully. There we go. Oh, thank you.
It's a strange one.
It's always good to have a Brit in the conversation. I said it, I go, I'm not sure that's a real word. Purposefully to be cruel or insulting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or the other possibility is you're showing up as too nice, too deferential, too apologetic.
So prey, essentially.
Yes. And which is what's interesting when we go back to your story. I remember you saying you knew instinctively when the technician was being very aggressive, you had this temptation for a second to go pray and apologetic. And
he scared me. He was scary at the beginning. He was, he was not happy. He was not a happy bunny. He'd had a terrible week and he hated his job, and I was going to get the brunt of that. And so, of course, I was, don't go pray, don't go pray, don't go pray. And that was a tough battle. Yeah, that was a tough one.
And you were coaching yourself not to go pray because of the work we've done together, because that.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So for listeners, because most of the people under pressure, people will go prey more than predator.
Mm,
And there's a huge price that you pay. It
right.
will, even nice people will be triggered to become aggressive or rude or disrespectful towards you. So it's significant. So you really want to break that habit of going prey.
Yeah, and that's interesting because when I first got to grips with this, Amy, I remember thinking, how can being nice and apologetic make somebody angry or make them go predator? It didn't compute. I couldn't work that out. And now I've seen it all in action. Yeah, I mean, I get it. So stopping myself from going prey was important for me in that situation. And it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. So that the being assertive, and here's the thing, one of the things, T, I don't know if you took the course years ago, so you did get filmed. It'd be interesting to hear your opinion, because what is the biggest challenge for people when I work with them is this gap in awareness, how we think we're coming across and how we're actually coming across.
Yes.
So the recommendation I have for people is film yourself. And now if you have anyone who has a Zoom account, you can just open up, even your free account, you can open it up, you hit record, and you can film yourself as if you're having a conversation with someone, or as if you're going to present something, or maybe you're going to be in conflict with someone and you want to practice, okay, I'm going to say this really assertively. And the thing is, for many people who are too nice, they feel when they're assertive, they think they're being rude or aggressive or disrespectful. And that's why you film yourself, because then afterwards you watch it, go get popcorn, close the door and watch your video, because what you'll see is most likely you were assertive and not aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great way to close the gap fast. What about you, T? Do you remember what it was like when you were watching your videos?
I do. You coaching me as far as volume was concerned. That was one of the first things, the volume. And I had this nervous laughter. Do you remember? I kept laughing and getting nervous because I was being assertive. It was kind of like and I didn't really realize that I was doing it until I looked at the video.
Say that you just
getting over that.
Will I interrupt you? Repeat that again, because we missed it.
Oh,
after you think,
until I watched the video. Yeah, looking back, and once the nervous laughter was under control, the being assertive actually felt almost like I was being rude.
Yes.
Or over the top. And again, as British, a big generalization, I know that Brits, we like to apologize and we like to be gentlemanly and maybe say less. And so the assertive thing was a challenge for me.
Yep.
And it wasn't half as bad when I got to grips with it and being able to practice. It felt worse than it looked. So watching back on the video, I looked assertive and I looked in control and I looked professional. Yet it felt like I was doing too much.
And you sounded assertive and not aggressive.
Yeah.
Is that true? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So listeners, this is going to be, you'll probably have the same experience that T did, is that there's going to be that gap between how you think you're showing up and how you're actually showing up. So
practice makes perfect. Get the videos on.
Then what happened after you watch the video? We only have 2 minutes to go, T. So just in 20 or 30 seconds, what changed for you after watching the video?
Well, I was reassured and reassured and realized that you can always push a little bit more, a little bit further, because it felt over the top or too loud or too presumptuous or too this. And actually, no. And I would have never filmed myself doing any of that in real life if you, a coach, had not told me to try it. So
cool.
Yeah, highly recommend that.
All right. Well, listen, T, we have to wrap up now. So what is one call for action that you would offer to listeners based on what we talked?
I would suggest those now form.
Okay, you're cutting out for a second. Say it again, 4 videos.
Wait, one second there. I just stopped it. 1 second.
Okay.
Let's see here.
We're losing your internet.
Yeah, we just lost you there for a second. I'll count you back in. You can pick it up with your answer, okay?
Okay, thanks.
I shouldn't ask the
And-
question again.
So will Amy, you ask the question?
Let me check with Andrew. Should I ask the question again?
Yeah, let me play. I can play it back for you too as well. Let me see here.
And I would have never filmed myself doing any of that in real life if you, a coach, had not told me to try it. So
Cool.
yeah, highly recommend that.
All right. Well, listen, T, we have to wrap up now. So what is one call for action that you would offer to listeners based on what we talked?
Okay, I would
Yeah, right there.
So we can pick it up from there
Okay.
if you just want to answer it from there. 1 second here.
Yep.
1 second. I'll count you back in just a second.
Thanks.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, so Amy, my call to action would be for listeners to use and practice those 4 magic words. Would you tell me more?
It might be 5.
Would you tell me more? Yeah, of course. I'm thinking
That's 5. We've
3,
added.
and we've added would. We've added some. So tell me more has now become would you tell me more? Yeah, 5 magic words.
Beautiful. Nice. And my call for action is for listeners to send me your communication conundrums, clashes, challenges, mishaps, blunders, and successes via email or social media. And I will read them and discuss them on future shows, much like T and I did today. And you can send those directly to my email, amy@carrollcoaching.com. That's 2 R's and 2 L's. If you're ready to take your superhero partner powers into the next decade, join me for my online leadership presence course. You can check out more about that on carrollcoaching.com. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Katrina Burrows. We'll be discussing the difference between a demanding leader and a brilliant jerk. What are the fears of a brilliant jerk and how to develop a brilliant jerk's interpersonal skills? T, thank you. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Thanks, Amy. It's been great again.
Super. And thanks, listeners. You've been listening to Partner Up with Amy Carroll on the Voice America Business Channel. And keep in mind, practice makes partner and partner makes peace. Happy partnering, everyone.